Listen. Now, I'm pretty sure the most uncontroversial thing you could say to a DC fan is that when it comes to the movies, the animated ones have always delivered.
I have to say, you're better than I am. And you always were.
So obviously there was a lot of hype for an adaptation of Injustice, just off the premise of having an evil Superman. There's the fact that Snyder's been hinting at wanting to do this for a while, even adding that extra scene in the new cut of his version. And I'm gonna be honest, if you haven't read the series or even played the game, I do think that you can enjoy this movie because it's practically a Cliff Notes version of the entire arc. But personally, I think it's in those little details that are gone and the fact that, it is meant to be an adaptation that kind of fails. Like, this is 6 hours condensed into 73 minutes. They just cut out a lot of characters as if the recipe didn't call for these ingredients. Motivations and themes are just gone to the point that it doesn't do the story justice. Now, the games do come from the creator of Mortal Kombat, and I know that there's 2 out right now with a rumored 3rd on the way, but I personally would highly recommend checking out the entire comics run, which is up on Hoopla for free, because it's pretty good. It's a story arc that takes place over 6 years, so honestly, it would have been better to make it a 3-parter if you were sticking to movies, but y'all already know. Make it an animated miniseries. DC already dropped that service that they had that was meant to house all of their originals, and they combined it all with HBO Max. And considering that you have some, like the Long Halloween adaptation that just came out, which had a VOD release, only to then be on the service months later, it definitely could have housed an Injustice show. Especially when you consider that these VOD prices, they could be a lot. So before we get into full spoilers for the new Injustice movie, a big thank you to our channel sponsor. As always, Raycons come through not just to help you listen to YouTube, they're literally the ones supporting YouTubers out here. They're the everyday earbuds for your everyday use. They get rid of all those nasty wires so you don't look like a broken cyborg and leaves you with an oily, smooth feeling case to fidget with. If you're watching these DC movies on the go, it's got you with an 8-hour playback and up to 32 standby. If you're out there running faster than the Flash, these little gel tips are sized to make sure they stay in your ears. And if you're ultra important, it's mic'd up so you can even take calls like Batman. So wear them on a boat, at the park, in Metropolis, Gotham, and get a whole universe of sound for half the price. So if you haven't stepped into the wireless earbud life, click the link down below or head on over to buyraycon.com/letmeexplain to get up to 20% off your Raycon order. Get that 45-day money-back guarantee and support the channel while doing so. Because after watching this $20 animation, it really only felt like I got 20% of the story. Let me explain.
I'm pulling the best joke ever.
So in this universe, we still have our usual heroes beating up the bad guys, but this time around, there's something beating inside of Lois.
We're pregnant. Mostly you, but I helped.
I like how Batman calls him out immediately, knowing that he's about to have a kid, because it really does change everything.
And you're grinning like an idiot.
But then Lois goes missing, causing Batman to call on the League to go investigate. And if you blink, you might miss some of these superheroes, because legit, Barry gets killed in a flash by a slash. I had always assumed that something like a toxin would just pass through his system just as fast as a bunch of the other things do, but here, the dude just gets jacked by a box. And what's worse is that even after his death, the League moves on faster than his abilities. Like, I wasn't expecting a Charlie Puth tribute to the man, but none of the heroes even really react, kind of taking away the whole emotionality of it. And it sucks because his whole arc in the original is that he's the viewer's conduit, He's struggling to figure out whose side he should be on, and I think it adds a lot to the story. So it kind of sucks that the entire element is just gone in exchange for shock factor. So someone's got to get Barry to run backwards so we can redo this. Worst things end up happening on Superman's watch, though, as Jimmy Olsen goes for a shot only to get shot. And I'll give the movie this. It definitely settles on its R rating to the point that it's been banned in a couple of countries, and it doesn't shy away from the fact that these two are literal murderers. It was sick to see them bring the Jimmy Choo line to life.
Ooh, I got some Jimmy on my shoe.
I just wish that with a story as deep as this, they would have gone all the way. Joker's master plan is to trick Superman by using Scarecrow's toxin, making him think that he's beating up Doomsday, when in reality, he's taking Lois all the way up to the sky, which in turn, because the Joker had put a heart monitor on her, it causes a nuclear bomb to go off in Metropolis, pushing Supes to his breaking point as his wife, city, and unborn child are obliterated, finally giving this clown his killing joke.
Now that's a punchline.
So now you got this all-star Superman practically causing his own apocalypse, putting the world on lockdown as he's vowed to get rid of all crime and every single evil deed effective immediately. And I'm just laughing because they're practically telling you that this man could have done this at any point in his life. He was just digging around until he actually had a kid of his own on the line. And the same thing happens with Diana, who they do dirty because she's pretty much his Dick Cheney. She's the one who's egging him on to take over step by step.
Maybe I'm not seeing clearly because of...
If you believe in your path, you cannot compromise. You'll have to be strong.
Clearly she's been thirsting over Clark to the point that I thought
justice is finally done
meant getting rid of Lois, because these two really do take over and become a one Clark government, and you know that can only be displayed in animation, because I'm pretty sure the live action Diana would have taken out more, and so he clears the world in two when God said 7.
Your will be done.
Because Supes has turned into Judge Dredd and has taken away all the guns, Batman's like, well, no, I don't have a job. And so it becomes a new frontier for the League to face since they've never had to turn on Superman. And in the comics, it even turns into an all-out civil war between them as they split. And here, they kind of just dip. The Green Lantern takes the first flight out, Aquaman and Shazam just disappear, and it just leaves these two with so much bad blood that they become public enemies. But it's Batman. He's never going to take the L.
They said it couldn't be tracked to me. How did you know?
Even though she has the same hell to pay, Hartley's still left alive to act a fool, but also to become a superhero, showcasing how these two have practically swapped roles after losing their loved ones.
Cause I'm a hero now! Hero Harley!
And it's actually those two characters of Harley and Green Arrow who get paired up as she drives him nuts. In the bigger story arc to it all, Lex Luthor and Supes are also actually friends. Like, not only is he completely pro his plan of world dictatorship, but Lex even creates this super enhancement pill to help power up the team and drive everything forward. And in the movie, they do this really interesting thing with Luthor in that he doesn't appear at all. So you'd think that they would add extra elements elsewhere, you know? But they don't. Even the philosophy of the story is pretty bare bones. It pretty much boils down to, yeah, the Man of Steel can break Bruce's knuckles, but at least Batman doesn't break his code. And as someone who's seen Batman all day, every day, cool. But all the nuance in their arguments that were already written are exchanged for heavy-handed bits like this.
Superman's bringing down governments. Fine when it's in our interests, a mighty big problem when it's not.
Mr. Terrific also appears in place of Barry's chess scene with Superman, as he's the one who's challenging Supes on his idea of taking over, saying that, you know, if you're trying to stop everyone from hurting and all this crime, at what point do you start arresting people for using a plastic straw, for reckless driving? They didn't even get into the idea of social media, and that's where I think it really is bare bones, because even with Mr. Terrific, you're inserting a guy whose origins deal with him losing his wife and his child. But that's not really brought up as he's facing Superman, who's lost his wife and his child. Instead, Superman decides it would be great to work alongside Ra's al Ghul, and
Respectfully, I disagree.
Clark continues his reign by taking out the villains, and of course, Bruce would pull up to protect the prisoners. Such a Batman thing to do, but it's as he rushes to stop this assault on Arkham that he ends up creating more chaos. In the midst of the fight, Damian, son of Batman, continues to snitch to Clark since he sides with his idea of ruling with an iron fist, but in his angst, he ends up killing Nightwing, and in the comics, it is played off more like an accident where Dick got $1 million baby by a rock during this kerfuffle, but here they give you the ESPN replay that just drenches Damian in his guilt, and you gotta understand, to Bruce, him and Dick were close. Maybe too close.
Dick, I know Bruce.
And now, the only thing under this Robin's hood is pure red. Clark Kent calls Selina to come comfort Bruce since he knows how devastated he is, and everyone in this movie is just losing a loved one, and she's the one person who he knows can come help Bruce when he's down. And to some, Bruce is always down there. I did like the little arc for Batman in this one, since in the end he does give her a big smooch upstairs, and you see him find some solace as he gives off that big goofy smile. But before then, it's a bunch of rushed tension. The remaining good guys under Batman try to sneak into the Fortress of Solitude, but a mix-up happens that leads to Papa Kent getting hurt in the comics, and here it's just a full-on death, causing Supes to release the drones, putting the entire world under surveillance. There's even a point where he crashes a Gen Z party and goes full Homelander.
One death.
It always starts with one.
Personally, I know that this bit is supposed to add to Clark going off the rails, but I think the way they originally did it with him killing Shazam, aka a 12-year-old Billy, it's just more brutal, not just in its literal execution, but you're talking about a character who we actually know, so it holds some more weight. Even Green Arrow's death is toned down, since originally it was done in a POV perspective where you're seeing him get beat up and you're seeing how unbound Clark is becoming, and it just reminds me of the adaptation of The Governor in The Walking Dead. I don't think the TV version was bad at all, but the way that they introduced him in the comics was, it's just on another level, and if you take those parts out, it's just not gonna lead up to the same type of emotion. Plus, there's a bunch of other things missing. Deathstroke is gone, Black Canary is raptured, Raven had less lines than Nick Cage did in Willy's Wonderland, and then they took out Alfred headbutting Supes, one of the best moments. Like, they served you a delicious patty for sure, but they forgot the buns that hold it all together. The Dark Knight does return with a character from the later volumes, proving that the writers did have a lot to source from, and look, I won't lie that seeing Plastic Man was goofy fun. He is the one who ends up breaking into a secret trench to free Mr. Terrific after he had the argument with Superman, and because it's comics, animation, DC, Nightwing even comes back as Deadwing, and he's able to hack into Cyborg to be able to move the plot forward. Later on, even continues to go into the Waynes, but it's in this high-security superhero prison where they didn't take Mr. Terrific's tea, so he's able to literally put on his plot armor and escape. Superman is then surprised that working with Ra's ends up turning against him. And because of that, he's technically created an AI whose function is to just adapt and control Alt-Delete humanity. And I just found Amazo to be so boring. Like, I don't even understand why they end up putting Amazo in Smallville considering everything that he's able to do. It's really just there to set up the third act, and it's just dumb because they really hyped this part up, only for it to not be anything. In the end, it turns out that this world that we're in and we're watching is Earth 22 in the multiverse. And so Mr. Terrific, after he's escaped, is able to cause a crisis on 2 Earths by calling on the Superman from Earth 1, and now they're fighting their elite selves to the death.
Why aren't you hitting yourself? Why aren't you hitting yourself? Why aren't you hitting yourself?
Since this movie cut out Martha, Batman instead calls out to an alternate Lois who comes in to talk to Clark, and just like that, he turns himself in. Granted, we really didn't get a shot of him getting locked up like we do in the games. There is no sequel setup like we see with the glare in his eyes. How we kind of even forgot that earlier on in the movie when they were having a fight, there is still kryptonite inside of Superman's head. So honestly, for this version and this take, man should have just thrown himself up into the sun like Icarus. Overall, it's an okay enough speed run through the story that didn't even push 90 minutes. And look, while they can make a sequel, I just feel they've already cut out a lot of the great characters and things that they could have expanded upon. So I'm still hoping that one day they're able to adapt it as a miniseries. I hope that they continue to host all their projects under the HBO hub, since it is a very convenient way to watch and catch up on all these stories. But because it's streaming, that also means you can make it as crazy as you want it to be. Look at Invincible and how they were able to go all out because of the way that they were able to host that show. And who knows, maybe even in an alternate universe, we can even get the finale to what the Snyder Cut was building up to. Until then, the Harley Quinn show is still better. Thank you all for checking out this video. I'm curious to know your thoughts down below in the comment section. I did think it was interesting to see how they animated some of the video game combo moves into the animation. But as cool as the fights looked, sometimes they didn't really make any sense. You know, like I like the animation style, but I wish the directing was a little bit better. And I'm curious to see what they're going to expand it upon. I know there wasn't even there was an element to it where they kind of called out the Long Halloween.
Bane, Killer Croc, and whoever that is.
Which is only a little goofy because, you know, they weren't great, but I thought they did a little bit of a better job in their adaptation. At least they made theirs 2 parts, but I'm curious to know your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you read the series, if you played the games, did you like this? Did you think it was enough? Considering it's a 70-ish minute adaptation, what do you wish would have been added? How would you like to see them adapted even further than this? But I'm curious to know your thoughts down below on this movie and any of the others, what your favorite DCAU movie is, and until next time, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, or Plastic Man will finagle you.
Hey, look! I found the key.